We can go live to South London, where we can talk to John Bercow, former Speaker of the House of Commons. He's also a personal friend of Nancy Pelosi. A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Bercow. You are somebody who has been responsible for ceremony and sanctity of office. What did you make of the events?
Shocked and disgusted. The chorus of execration, Samantha, of the rioters, and most notably of Donald Trump's manifest incitement of them, has been loud, it's been eloquent, and it's been justified. And of course, also, it has been global. Right across the world, people have been disgusted by what they've witnessed. There can, I think, be absolutely no conceivable doubt whatsoever that Donald Trump has been the author of his current misfortunes. The notion that somehow he can elide out of this situation and convey the impression that it wasn't his fault, that it was nothing to do with him, that it's all the misdeeds of others, is frankly ludicrous. It's an insult to people's intelligence. He must have known that he was lighting the touch paper in speaking at that rally in the tones that he did and exhorting people to march on the Capitol. It must have occurred to him that violence could follow. So as far as I'm concerned, his sudden change of tone is completely unconvincing. You cannot believe a word that this big mouth thug says. He's disgraced himself, he's disgraced his office, he's disgraced American democracy, and he ought either to be summarily removed as a result of the application of Amendment 25 before the 20th of January. Failing that, he should be impeached. And I very much hope, in the interests of the United States and of democratic principles, that one or other of those courses of action will now follow.
Yeah, I mean, your friend, I was just saying there that you're friends with Nancy Pelosi. She wants to impeach him, not for the first time. Seems to be gathering a bit of momentum. Do you think that? Do you think it will happen? Look,
I'm not an expert on the operation of the American system, so I should speak with a degree of humility on the matter. She knows what she's doing. She knows that she will have bipartisan support, and I very much hope that if he isn't removed before the 20th, seems to me to be very much a sort of third best option and a pretty poor option. I've got the highest regard for Nancy Pelosi. She seems to me to embody and epitomize the very best of the American political system. She's a Democrat, not just with a large D, but with a small d. She believes in pluralism, she believes in human rights, and she believes, Samantha, very importantly, in respect. The trouble with Donald Trump, who is, if you will, a proto-fascist, is that he has absolutely no regard for or tolerance of any opinion other than his own. He is the ultimate narcissist. He is completely self-obsessed. It's all about him. And frankly, I think the international community is sick and tired of him. You cannot believe...
But John, you say that. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the enablers of President Trump, and it's not just, the obvious suspects like Ted Cruz and Mitch McConnell, Mike Pence, and so on. We also need to look at, don't we? There's Nigel Farage here. People can also say our own Prime Minister Boris Johnson and the one before him, Theresa May.
Well, look, I'm pleased that the Prime Minister Boris Johnson criticised President Trump yesterday. I think he was rather late in doing so, but I welcome the fact that he robustly did so. But you're absolutely right. There have been a lot of facilitators and enablers over a long period. I thought it was a great mistake for Prime Minister Theresa May to rush to pay homage to Donald Trump back in 2017. She was itching to invite him to the United Kingdom to speak to the British Parliament, something about which I was consulted and to which I very strongly objected. And in the end, that attempted ingratiation with President Trump didn't work for very long. As soon as Theresa May called him out for retweeting fascist material, he turned on her. And okay, her efforts on Brexit were not fruitful, but he then conducted a running commentary on her efforts and undermined her. And of course, Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Conservative MP and now leader of the House, said years ago that if he were an American citizen, he would vote for Donald Trump. Michael Gove, a British cabinet minister, rushed to interview Donald Trump, Nigel Farage has paid homage to him. And in 2018, Boris Johnson said that he thought that Donald Trump was a suitable potential contender for the Nobel Peace Prize. So all of these people, I'm afraid, have sucked up to and sought to ingratiate themselves with somebody who simply doesn't respect democratic principles.
But we can't forget, can we, that more than 70 million people in America voted for him?
Yes, I have to acknowledge that. He won the election in 2016 legitimately. I've never said otherwise. He won the Electoral College. And you make a fair point there. And it is a shocking fact in polling undertaken, I think, only yesterday by YouGov, that 45% of Republican voters think that the storming of the Capitol was justified. So yes, he does have very considerable public support in the United States, minority support, and he lost the election by 7 million votes, and he ought to have the decency and respect and good grace to acknowledge the Biden-Harris victory, which of course he doesn't do because he doesn't know the meaning of the word respect. Yes, he does have widespread support, but he has minority support, and he adheres to and practices the wrong values. He's racist, he's sexist, he has no respect for anybody else. He's a totally unsuitable public servant. And I think that one of the merits of impeachment would be that, frankly, he couldn't stand for public office again. And that would be very much in the interests of the United States. He ought to
perhaps not for the 70 million. Perhaps not for the 70 million people who voted for him. They wouldn't be happy to see that. Let's move on. 12 days' time, a new incumbent in the White House, Joe Biden. How does he go about getting, dare I ask the man himself, order?
Well, of course, it's for the Speaker of the House to get order in the legislature, and indeed the Speaker of the Senate for that matter, and I'm sure they will do their jobs fantastically. I've already made it clear I'm a huge and unalloyed admirer of Nancy Pelosi, who represents the very best of American politics. As far as Joe Biden is concerned, look, he has the wind in his sails. He has the democratic legitimacy of being elected, and being elected by an enormous margin. And I think the success of the Democrats in the runoff races in Georgia has fortified him further. So he's got a relatively free hand. He might like to have a bigger majority, but he's got majority control of both houses of Congress. He's got the public support. He's a long-standing and thoroughly decent public servant who has spoken with enormous dignity and conviction in recent days. And I think people around the world will say, thank goodness there's going to be a change, and that it's Biden-Harris, not Trump-Pence. This is good news for the United States. It's good news for relations with the UK and with Europe, and for the conduct of American diplomacy around the world. So I don't know Joe Biden personally, but I admire him, and I wish him and the Vice President every possible success in charting an altogether more constructive course for the United States in the
John Bercow, good to talk to you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.